Do you want to boss people around in Spanish? Excellent, you've come to the right place. Bienvenido o bienvenida a este video. Let's take a look at commands in Spanish. First, we have the affirmative tú commands, which are the most common ones that we use. Now, the affirmative tú commands are simply the regular third-person singular verbs. So when you say Juan lava los platos or Bob come una hamburguesa, we're going to be using that form in order to command someone to do something. So here, Juan lava los platos. But if I'm talking to you, I could say, Oye, lava los platos. Wash the dishes. Okay? Now, you may have heard this one before. Dame eso. Give that to me. Now, this little word, me, right here, is what we call an indirect object pronoun, okay? It's representing me. However, if I were to get rid of that, let's pretend the me doesn't exist, da would mean give. So, da un discurso, for example, give a speech. I'm commanding you to do that. Remember, it's a third person singular, so that could mean, Bob da muchos regalos cada Navidad. Bob gives lots of gifts on Christmas, okay? So, da and lava, they're both coming from that third person singular, and these are the most common commands that we have in Spanish. They're the affirmative tú commands. Remember that tú is informal, whereas usted is formal, okay? Now, we only have 8 irregulars when it comes to these commands. Se, coming from the verb ser, meaning to be. So, let's say you're telling someone to be nice. Se amable, be nice. Be, from the verb ir, so you may have heard vete, meaning go. When we add the te, it adds extra emphasis. It becomes a reflexive, and it just adds extra emphasis. So, ve, go, ve, all right? Ten, coming from the verb tener. Look, ten, te tengo un regalo, ten. Here, have this, or take this, ten. Ven, coming from the verb venir, meaning to come. Ven aquí, ven, ya, ven. Come here, ven, ven, okay? You hear it all the time at the dog park in Mexico. Haz, coming from the verb hacer, meaning to do or to make. So, hazme un pastel. Make me a cake. Or, haz mi tarea. Do my homework. Okay? Di, say, coming from the verb decir. Dime la verdad. Tell me the truth. Dime la verdad. Pon, from the verb poner, meaning to put. So, pon la mesa. Put the table or set the table. Pon. And finally, sal, coming from the verb salir, meaning to go out. So, sal de la casa. Go out of the house or leave the house. Now, you may have heard the word sal, meaning salt. So, how do we know the difference? Just context clues. So, if I say, hay sal en la mesa, you will understand that I'm saying there is salt on the table instead of saying there is go leave on the table, right? Wouldn't make sense, all right? Now, we have negative tú commands. How do we form those? We're going to take the tú form of the present subjunctive. Now, if you haven't learned about the subjunctive, no worries. A thing that you can do that's not always going to work is you can imagine this as a flip. So, typically, if you were to say hablas, for example, tú hablas, now we're going to change it from as to es, okay? So, hables. However, this doesn't work all the time because we do have some irregulars. So, if you haven't learned about the present subjunctive, you can learn about that but from videos on this channel or on my website. Click the link in the video description to check it out. But that's how we form it. So, if we take a look at the negatives, we have, for example, no corras, okay? Correr is an ER verb, but in that present tense subjunctive, I would say no corras, for example. So, mi mamá quiere que tú corras. My mom wants you to run. Or, mi mamá no quiere que tú corras. My mom doesn't want you to run. That's a present tense subjunctive. But here with our command, we'll have no corras, okay? Don't run. That's informal. Nunca comas Vegemite. Don't ever eat Vegemite, okay? Coming from the ER verb comer, meaning to eat. Once again, if you're not sure why we're forming this and how it's formed, check out the present subjunctive. Like I said, I have videos about it on this channel and also on my website, okay? Nunca comas Vegemite. No hate against Vegemite. I've had it before and it was all right, but this is my professional advice. Nunca comas Vegemite. Now, for positive or affirmative and negative usted commands, they're actually the same, and it's going to be the present subjunctive, but in the third person singular, so in the él, ella, or usted form. So, for example, apague la luz, por favor. Apague la luz, por favor. Please turn off the light. Or, no diga eso. Now, that's a negative. Do not say that. No diga eso. For the tú command, it would just be adding an S onto the end. No digas eso, right? And here, if I were to make this into a negative tú command, I could say, no apagues la luz, por favor. That's the negative tú command now, okay? We also have for the ustedes, the third person plural. So now the ellos, ellas, ustedes in that present subjunctive like we talked about. So, no griten, chicos. Don't yell, guys. No griten, chicos. Okay, don't yell. Gritar, the AR verb meaning to yell or to scream. And believe it or not, we also have a nosotros command. So, way back in the day when I used to watch Rhett and Link, they, at the beginning of their show, would always say, let's talk about that. Well, technically, that is a nosotros command. So here we have, hablemos de eso. Let's talk about that. I could also say something like, comamos afuera. Let's go out to eat, or let's eat outside. Comamos afuera, okay? Now, if you're confused with the usted commands and the nosotros, don't worry about it too much because the most common ones that we use are going to be the affirmative and negative tú commands. So I highly recommend you study these because they are used all the time. A quick note, if you use a tú command with someone when you should have used usted, it's not the end of the world. Maybe it will come off as slightly more rude, but don't worry because people are going to understand that you are learning Spanish. So don't worry if you mess this up, okay? Plenty of my students will use tú out in the world even when they should be using usted because if they mess up usted, they would rather just say it right with tú and have people understand, okay, they're learning, it's okay, no big deal. Okay, so study these, lava, dame, no hagas, no corras, whatever. Study this. This is going to help a lot. Muchas gracias por ver este video. If you want to learn more Spanish with me, click the link in the video description to check out our Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy. Our goal is to help you have a 10-minute conversation in Spanish in 90 days without feeling unconfident. It's awesome. Check it out by clicking the link in the video description. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.